Andy Morris from Good Inc. He's going to be here to provide a report on lessons learned from 4 cities. Andy, we're running close to time, so
I understand.
do be
I
as
appreciate your time.
thorough and brief as possible.
I'll try to give you some of that back. I'll just call out an advancement. My name is Andy Morris. I work for a company called Good Inc. We're a social impact consulting company working on behalf of the Funders Together company. Will do. In the mic.
Speak right into that microphone.
Right into the mic. I'll start off by giving a background of the project that we conducted. How's that? Better?
Excellent.
Sounds good. So quick background is that we worked with the Funders Together community to explore 4 cities around the country and specifically what they did to address their homeless population. We developed kind of a rubric to determine what communities we were going to assess. We conducted that assessment, and of course all this is meant to serve the community plan that you are developing currently. So we had 4 milestones in our project. The first was establishing that rubric. Who were we going to go assess? The 2 basic tenets of that rubric were that the cities that we were assessing had to be comparable to San Diego, and in some way that comparison had to do with the size of the city, the size of the homeless population, and the size of the population in general, as well as some more infrastructure-related criteria like housing prices and housing inventory. Next, we conducted a roundtable of expert interviews. We talked to the folks who are in many ways your counterparts in those cities. We facilitated a workshop with the members of the Community Planning Committee, and finally we are in the process, including tonight, of socializing the learnings for key stakeholders, community members included. We met with the Community Plan Committee. We met with representatives from city and county government. Here we are tonight at the Regional Task Force Board meeting, and we will be wrapping this up December 13th with the Funders Together team. And I should take this opportunity to say that I see some of the slides are including a bit of small text, especially in the back of the room, might be hard to see. Amy from the Funders Together team will have tonight's presentation available immediately, and following that December 13th meeting, the full presentation, including all of the details from the community assessments, will be available. So these are the 4 cities that we ended up assessing. They include Houston, Santa Clara, Philadelphia, and Seattle. We did this through a combination of desk research, subject matter expert surveys, subject matter expert phone interviews, and we did actually go to these places and conduct face-to-face roundtables. With the notable exception, unfortunately, of Houston, our roundtable was scheduled for the day after Hurricane Harvey made landfall. So that was unfortunate timing, but they obviously have important things to worry about. I will, for the sake of time, this is my gift back to the board, hold off on going into detail of what we learned from those specific communities. That will be available in the full report, but I will move on at this time to kind of what we actually learned. And if you advance one more, you see kind of the laundry list. These are the 10 common themes that we saw from each community in terms of either what worked to stem homelessness or what didn't work, and why they count some of these things among, I wouldn't say failings, but among their challenges. So in very brief detail, I will say that streamlined funding is important to get everybody on the same page and have a common playbook. Launching a new program was a catalyst for success in a lot of these communities. That is not to say that a new program for the sake of a new program is a good idea, but it is a galvanizing kind of rallying cry for a lot of these communities. Public opinion is a fickle beast and is often focused on short-term impact, which is not always where especially this body wants to concentrate. So managing public opinion and community support, especially in a positive way, is critical. Alignment around a theory of change is, the pavement on the road to success. Gordon mentioned housing first mentality. In all the communities that we talked to who have made significant impact on stemming homelessness and especially reducing chronic homelessness, a housing first mentality was critical. Collaboration, I'm going to pick up on a comment made earlier, among not only government representative funders and providers was kind of table stakes, but the wider community around that was something that often got cited as a factor for success. And I should say that you don't have to agree to collaborate, and just having a dialogue is certainly the first step to having the impact of collaboration be seen in the community. Political will, I think, has been touched on. But I will say the installation of someone who can isolate, especially the senior leaders of city and local governments, has seen a lot of success. Someone who can stand at the podium and in front of the cameras, who isn't necessarily the mayor or the county supervisor, such that those higher level positions can remain focused on the long-term objective of ending homelessness while addressing and making significant plans for short-term crises as they develop. We've talked about HMIS and effective data collection and management. I will point out that that includes all spectrum of the system, both entries and exits, and that not only the collection of data is critical, but the development of a data-driven decision-making framework, such that in the development of this community plan, the recommendations that are adhered to be based on real information and not necessarily kind of the whim of the day. Federal programs is not only a nice pot of money to draw from, but something that is a catalyst for getting everyone aligned on either a theory of change or an initiative forward. Hopefully that develops into strong strategic planning, which in many cases, as is your practice right now, results in a community plan that includes things like cost impact studies and going back to the data-driven decision-making models. And then effective leadership, the point here that I've heard from multiple communities is that effective leadership doesn't just mean Gordon, doesn't just mean Supervisor Roberts, and I don't think they would say that it does, but everyone in here, and I would say everyone back here as well, are leaders in their community. And effective leadership means not only knowing and playing your role, but speaking up and being part of the process, an active part of the process. We, through the subject matter expert surveys, completed what we call an impact difficulty matrix. This plots those 10 factors for success on 4 quadrants based on how hard the subject matter experts in these communities said it was to enact positive change in these areas, and how much positive impact it actually had on the end outcome of ending homelessness in their community. For the sake of time, I won't go into as much detail, but you can see just by looking at where the icons are placed on this quadrant that not everything has the same level of impact. Obviously, you see the trend that things that are more impactful are generally more difficult to complete, which we would expect. But taking advantage of some of these less difficult, more impactful items is part of the secret sauce to the success of some of these communities that we talked to. We pulled out 5, which I will glance over for the sake of time, but this is, ultimately part of our recommendation for San Diego. We talked about data-driven culture, but the decision-making piece that goes into the community plan, having that based on data as well, being crucial. Collaboration and trust across the community, including in the implementation process. Having federal programs be a catalyst for community collaboration, including outside of the just funders, providers, and government entities, is another crucial piece. The political will is always the must-have, but we need to recognize the impact that short-term crises can have on political will and therefore on the community plan, and we need to plan for that as well. And then the leaders who are able to isolate that long-term vision is one of those strategic placements that we have seen be really successful. So all this results in a few recommendations for San Diego, many of which you've already heard from Gordon and the focus strategies work that will hopefully carry forward into the development of the community plan and the execution of that plan. The political will we talked about, identifying that person who can be the isolating factor for those short-term crises, who can not only legitimately address them, but that is empowered to actually have an impact such that the political leadership of the city and county can remain focused on that long-term vision. I would, I guess, ask that the public opinion and community support be not only focused on a unified vision for ending homelessness, but that it be funneled in a productive way, such as we've heard tonight. The collaboration needs to continue, and again, I want to stress that you don't have to agree to collaborate. The effective data collection and management is a culture that develops over time, and that it seems as though you're not only willing and able to support, but actively pursuing. And then alignment around that theory of change, we would definitely recommend housing first, but taking action does not necessarily mean that everyone in the county has to be on the same page around housing first specifically. There's a lot of support in this room tonight, including from all of those areas that we've mentioned, and we would definitely recommend that we act now with the folks that we have on board. So with that, I believe I sped through a few of that. I want to reiterate that the full detail will be available following the December 13th meeting, and tonight's presentation will be available immediately. With that, I think I have a few minutes for closing thoughts and questions. Are there any
questions by any of the board members? Sue?
Can you, of the 4 cities you looked at, can you tell me which ones you thought had the best success in ending homelessness, or specifically ending chronic homelessness?
Houston and Santa Clara County, for sure, were the best examples that we thought were as applicable as possible to San Diego. The points that I'll pull out from Houston had a great relationship between the service providers and city and Harris County government. And for Santa Clara County, that ability to know and play the roles, they specifically have a really great system to isolate short-term crises while remaining focused on the long-term vision. The other thing I'll say about Santa Clara County is they have not only excellent data in their HMIS, but they also have excellent data to prove kind of the cost of homelessness. And they take that data and make really compelling public information available to everyone. So not only do they have the data, they communicate it effectively, and I think that's part of their success as well.
Thank you.
Sue loves your emphasis on data. Any other questions around the table here? Okay, Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.